Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Emily,
And I'm Whitney.
and you're listening to Cousins Talk Crime. You're listening to a true crime podcast. Today's episode may include sensitive or triggering topics. These topics may include domestic abuse, child abuse, substance abuse, sexual assault, torture, murder, and suicide. So, Whitney, what are you drinking out of?
Our new Cousins Talk Crime mugs. I'll let everyone see our little faces
They're so cute.
covered in blood.
Covered in blood. Love them. I got one too. Very cute. So if you are a member of the Best Friend tier or up, we're going to be sending you one of these cups. This is our exclusive thank you gift that you get for signing up for that tier at this time. The thank you gifts may change over time, but as of right now, that's it. If you have not given me your address, you can email me your address. You can message me on Patreon of your address. I've only had one person tell me what their address is. So if you don't give me your address, I can't send you a mug. So I promise your address is safe with us. But yeah, so if you want your mug, make sure and let us know. And yeah, so what have you been up to this week, Whit?
Oh, busy with the kids. They had swim lessons.
How are they
Just
doing
being
with their
busy.
swim lessons?
They did really good.
I've been
What have
busy.
you been up to?
I've been busy with work. I've just been busy with work. Busy with work, then busy with school, then busy with podcast stuff. Just like
So are you back in school too?
Yep.
What are you going for?
I'm going for business management.
So you both are back in school.
We're both back in school. Yeah.
Business management.
Yeah.
What can you probably do anything with that?
Yeah, you can do a lot
Yeah.
of different things. So my degree in business management is going to be it's going to concentrate on the supply chain side of business.
Where's your goal to work? Where would you like to work?
I don't know that I have a goal. Like where I currently work,
Yeah, they have
a really good like everywhere has a supply chain.
Yeah.
McDonald's has a supply chain. They need to
Right.
get freaking burgers to the restaurants. You know, everywhere has a supply chain. So you could pretty much go wherever
Anywhere you wanted.
wherever
Well,
you
that's
wanted
cool.
to go. Yeah, so as of right now, I'm getting all my experience in pharmaceuticals, so maybe that's where I'll stay.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
that's cool.
Who knows? Yeah, I'm excited. I am trying to get a job right now, a different job within my company. And so cross your
Really?
fingers.
Will it have better hours?
Got interviews next week, yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It'll be like your traditional Monday through Friday, and I'm pretty sure they're a group that's like hybrid to where they work from home some days and they work at the office some days.
Oh, that's cool.
So cross your fingers there. I'm excited about
Oh,
that.
so some days you could work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I'm tired of 12-hour shifts. It just wears me out. And I can't do anything during the week.
That's
And so
too
then I
long.
spend all weekend just catching up on everything I didn't get done.
No, 12-hour shifts are too long. How
I don't
many of
like
those do you work in a row?
So one week I'll work 3 in a row, and the next week I'll work 4 in a row. So one week I'll work 36 hours, the next week I'll work 48 hours. And plus, not the kicker, but one of the kickers is that, like, the company makes you take a 30-minute lunch in this 12-hour period. So you're really there for 12 and a half hours. And so then I have a 45-minute drive home, a 45-minute drive there. So that's another hour and a half. So that's 14 hours of my day away from home. And I need to get some sleep.
Right.
I need to be able to attend to other
So
stuff.
that leaves you like 2 hours.
Yeah. So I just exist on the days that I'm working. And
Yeah,
then-
that's a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a lot of stuff that y'all don't care about.
Me and Emily are just having a full-blown conversation.
We are. We may cut it. We may keep it. Who
Yeah.
knows what we'll do. But yeah, so I think are you going to be starting us off with?
Yes.
Awesome.
I am bringing a pretty, I think it's well known. Not everyone might have heard of it, but it's the Karen Reed case. And she is currently on trial right now. So I'm going to give you guys like a brief summary of like what happened. And then I'm going to give updates of how her court is going.
Okay.
And this one, I really thought just by watching clips that I felt a certain way. And now that I've really dug into it, I'm like, I don't know.
So we get to form our own opinions.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm excited because I've seen this one all over TikTok.
It's
but
all
I
over
haven't,
TikTok.
But I haven't looked too much into it.
Yeah.
I feel like you brought it up to me a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
but I still don't really know what.
Okay, so Karen Reed is a 45-year-old Massachusetts woman who is standing trial for allegedly hitting and killing her boyfriend, former Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV during a snowstorm in January 2022.
Oh,
Yeah, and she's
this
just
happened
now.
2 years ago.
Yep, she's just not going to trial. Reed has pleaded not guilty to charges of second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence of alcohol, and leaving the scene of personal injury and death. Attorneys for Reed have argued that she is the victim of a cover-up by several people, including law enforcement. Reed and O'Keefe were out drinking at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, Massachusetts, 20 miles outside of Boston, on January 28, 2022, after a night out of drinking, according to the court documents. Prosecutors say that Reed then dropped O'Keefe off at the then home of retired police officer Brian Albert in Canton, and then it tells you that he sold the home in 2023. So after this guy was found dead in his yard, they soon after sold their house. Albert testified on May 10th that neither O'Keefe or Reed entered his house that night. So she basically claims she dropped him off at this house party. And he's found dead the next morning in the snow in their yard. I think around the area he was dropped off. The people inside the house at the party all say he never made it inside. So they're saying she must have, when she dropped him off, hit him with her vehicle and then drove off and went home. So she wakes up, I know the next day, worried and looking for him. And that's when her and a couple of her friends, one of her friends who was at the party the night before and at the house at the time, come up and are looking for him and come up to the house where they see his body in the snow. So it says, in the early morning hours, Reed allegedly, which is Karen Reed, she's the lady on trial, allegedly left O'Keefe, which is her deceased boyfriend, a voicemail saying that she hated him. According to court documents, at 4:23 a.m., Jennifer McCabe received a phone call informing her that Reed was worried because O'Keefe was not responding to any calls and did not come home. About a half hour later, prosecutors say Reed called another woman whose spouse was friends with O'Keefe, saying, "What if he's dead? What if a plow hit him?" Reed and two other women then went looking for O'Keefe. At about 6 a.m., Reed called the Canton Police Department to report that she found O'Keefe lying in the snow outside the Alberts' home. According to court documents, the medical examiner found that O'Keefe died from blunt impact, head injuries, and hypothermia.
So who made that statement that he may have gotten hit by a plow?
They're saying that Karen Reed said that to one of the friends she called.
That's a random thing to get.
It's a random thing to just say.
In this voicemail that she left him, that she hated him, would that have been left after he could have possibly gotten killed? Like, why would she leave that voicemail
Right,
after
why would
she
she
killed him?
leave a voicemail at 4 in the morning? So, Jennifer McCabe, who it says she called, that Jennifer McCabe received a phone call informing her that Reed was worried before O'Keefe was not responding to any calls and did not come home. So she's still up at 4:20 in the morning. And then It said at about 6 a.m., Reed called the Canton Police Department to report that she found him lying in the snow. So I was going to bring up who Jennifer McCabe is, because that's who she called at 4:23. It's the sister of Nicole Albert. So that's whose house this is outside of. And Jennifer McCabe were actually the group that went out with them that night, and she went back to the house. She's friends with John O'Keefe, the guy that passed away. Her in-laws are Brian Albert, I guess, and Nicole, that's their house. So she's like related to the people that live at the house. I just want everyone to know who, because there's a lot of players in this, so it's going to get really complicated.
Yeah.
Reed's attorney have argued that O'Keefe got into an argument with people inside Albert's home, and that his beaten body was later dumped outside. They have pointed to wounds on O'Keefe's arms, which they said were from a dog attack, to try to substantiate their claims. They claim investigating officers are trying to frame Reed for O'Keefe's death. Police also found red taillight pieces, a shoe, and clear plastic pieces at the scene, according to court documents. The defense alleges that the broken taillight on Reed's car occurred when she left her driveway and hit O'Keefe's vehicle. So that morning at 6 a.m. when she left to go work from him, there's a video that we'll play where the Ring doorbell of the neighbors caught her backing out and hitting her husband's car. Even though there's taillight pieces found at the scene, they're claiming that's when it was. Her attorney's claiming her taillights got broke not till that morning. Because there's footage of it. And some people say the footage, she hit the car. Some people say she didn't. But you can see there's an
impact.
There's an impact.
The car moves. Like the other car.
Yeah.
He's alleged to have been hit around midnight, 12:15, 12:30.
Okay.
This happens, this video, 5 a.m., a little bit before 5 a.m. Ring camera video from the victim's home where his girlfriend, Reed, was staying the night. So this is what the video, here it is, Vinny. So she's pulling out in the black SUV. And that's the victim's SUV parked. And the defense says that she makes contact, hits the victim's SUV right there, damaging that back right passenger side tail light. And they also claim you can see, the victim's SUV move, indicating that there was a collision. And then as she pulls away, they say that you can tell there's missing parts of the tail light coming.
Right. But it would have been missing if it was a result of striking Officer O'Keefe at that time also. Here's a closer look at it. Once again, as we're backing up here, keep your eye and see if you see any movement here from the other car. It's very possible.
It's
very possible.
Prosecution doesn't say there's contact.
If the whole case was, how did the tail light get broken? You've got reasonable doubt right there.
Reasonable doubt, yes.
You've got reasonable doubt right there, because you can't tell, but it's a very reasonable to think that at that point you could have broken that tail light.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And that's defense evidence that we got our hands on. Great job.
So what's your brain thinking right now?
We're already a couple minutes into it.
It's a weird
We're
story.
only a couple minutes into it. So
her attorney's going to argue.
I'm just confused if it was her that killed him. Say, it was her that killed him.
Yeah.
My biggest thing already is going to be, why would she leave a voicemail after she killed him?
Yeah,
to show that she hated him.
I feel like she's up kind of worried about him. Like, she still, thinks it's unusual that he's not home. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, so she's leaving a voicemail like, I hate you, you're probably cheating on me, sort of thing, or something?
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're out so late?
And
I don't know, it's just
the weird thing is, there's surveillance footage from they were at 2 different bars, and both of them shows them. I mean, if you would look at them, and I know, people can post stuff online pretending to be a happy couple, but I don't feel like out in public in a scene like that, people put on a show. But I mean, she's smiling, she's rubbing his back, they're always you know what I mean? She doesn't look like someone that wants to kill her husband tonight. You know what I mean? In the videos that I've seen.
I wonder if they've done like psych evaluation on her to see if she's schizophrenic or bipolar, because some people that are bipolar and stuff like that, they can just snap.
Right.
They can seem happy and then just snap.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I'm going to hit him, and doesn't mean to actually kill him.
Yeah.
Doesn't realize what she's doing. Because if she's drunk, I don't know.
They were all drunk. The police officers, the people that were at the house, all of them were drunk.
Nice.
Yeah. So it says a first responder will testify in court in early May that Reed was distraught and shouted, "I hit him." When asked by a paramedic, Katie, if there was any trauma that O'Keefe had endured. And that will get brought up in court too when I actually go through the trial. The defense also attempted to wrap the case in doubt after presenting text messages sent by the lead investigator on the case, and that is State Police Trooper Michael Proctor, that displayed the officer's distaste for Reed. 12 jurors and 4 alternates picked over a 5-day process will help decide the fate of Reed, who's facing several charges for allegedly killing her boyfriend, police officer John O'Keefe.
There's a lot of Alberts on this list.
Yeah, and I think they're the ones that all live together in that home. I think it's like mom, dad, and I think there's 2 kids, and then maybe like a brother and his wife. I don't know. But the people that lived in the house are all Alberts.
Okay. Like, there's a lot of Alberts on this list.
Okay, so the district attorney, his name's Adam, for, the case against her, outlined the Commonwealth's case, saying that Reed even said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," in the hours after O'Keefe's death. He indicated that jurors will hear from some people who were inside the house where O'Keefe was found and from investigators involved with the case. Adam also referenced a 20-minute shouting match that Reed and O'Keefe reportedly had during a vacation in Aruba about a month before his death. So they're bringing up that a month ago when they were on vacation, people did witness them shouting.
Oh, God. Arrest me and my husband. Right. We've shouted before.
Right, and they have to be reaching if that's how long they had to go back.
Well, there's one time in Aruba.
Yeah.
We saw them get into a scuffle.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So that will be brought up.
I'm not confident in this already.
The defense argued that Reed is being framed and someone else is responsible for O'Keefe's death. But they didn't say specifically who they think that person is. So I guess the judge ordered that the defense can't make its third-party culprit argument during the opening statements. Instead, they must develop their argument through relevant, competent, and evidence through the course of the trial. Karen Reed was framed. Defense attorney David said in his opening, her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death, and that means someone else did. He argued that the lead investigator on the case had deep ties to the Albert family, the owners of the home inside which O'Keefe's body was found, and that the investigation into O'Keefe's death was not conducted properly. This is something that I'm going to talk about, but I just want to bring it up to you right now since you're already police never questioned anyone inside the home. They never took pictures. They never collected evidence, looked for a scuffle. They didn't investigate anyone inside the house.
Are the people that live inside the house police officers too?
Yeah, like an ex-police officer, yeah.
Oh.
And ties to a bunch of police officers. They all live in the same small. But yeah, he was, and I might be wrong. I think he was a police officer. But I know her attorney is going to argue if someone's dead on your front lawn, wouldn't you think to go inside that house or talk to people inside that house?
They probably saw that broken plastic from a car and didn't.
Oh, they didn't.
They zeroed in on it. Wait, what? Wait,
We'll
where
get
are you
to that.
looking? They didn't find it?
It wasn't there originally.
It wasn't there
Originally, when they searched through everything in the snow, and then they left the crime scene unattended for 2 days, and once the snow and everything melted, there was.
There. Okay. That does make a little bit of sense.
I don't know.
Okay. I
Okay.
don't know either. I would
They
think,
left the crime scene unattended. I mean,
why would they do that?
that's a good point. So this is what her lawyer says. Michael Proctor never stepped foot. Who is the lead investigator, by the way?
Michael Proctor.
Yeah. Michael Proctor never stepped foot inside the Albert home on January 29th of 22, never checked out whether there were any signs of struggle inside the home, never called for crime scene technicians and other specialists to look out for blood or other traces of evidence in the home. Like I said, they sold it afterwards. He never asked Brian Albert for permission to go inside the home, never applied for a search warrant to go in that home. Instead, he focused immediately and exclusively on Karen Reed.
Okay. I get it. A disgruntled lover is not almost always, but always a good person to look at, not to solely.
It gets better.
I'm waiting for something to tell me that Karen did it.
So Karen Reed's defense attorney said, on the day that O'Keefe was found dead, Proctor, the lead investigator, was texting with his high school friends, revealing information about the investigation and that his true thoughts about Reed. He called Karen Reed names you would reserve only for your worst enemies. He told his friends that he hoped she would kill herself. This is the lead prosecutor on the case sending these text messages, by the way, the day he's found dead. He told his friends he had seized her cell phone. He said Proctor even told his friends that he was searching for her phone for nude photos. This is the lead who arrested her. So what are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking there's got to be something good come up for me to think this is Karen. Even if Karen did it, they're handling this so poorly.
They've presented, I feel like, so much reasonable doubt that it will be really hard.
I haven't heard much yet, but I will be shocked if a jury finds her guilty.
Proctor, the lead investigator, also texted his friends that the Alberts wouldn't face any issues, despite the fact that O'Keefe had died on their lawn, because the homeowner is a Boston cop too, so he is an actively cop. But Proctor is currently the subject of an internal investigation by the Massachusetts State Police that sources have confirmed is connected to the Reed case.
She's gonna get acquitted for that shit.
You're going through her photos, looking for nude photos.
And on day one, you're
saying, I hope she kills herself?
No wonder no one looked at anyone else. This guy's a prick. This guy's
He,
the real...
for some reason, hated her.
Probably because she was pretty
Yeah.
and she didn't like him.
Karen Reed's attorney also alleged that O'Keefe's injuries were not consistent with being hit by a vehicle, but rather an attack by an animal, and he said that Alberts owned a German Shepherd that was known to be not great around strangers. He also said the dog, named Chloe, was rehomed just months after the death. The first prosecution witness in the case is O'Keefe's brother, Paul, was called to testify shortly after noon on Monday. He became emotional as he described how his brother took custody of their niece and nephew in 2013 after their sister and brother-in-law died. So John O'Keefe and Karen took in 2 kids that were her husband. Well, they weren't married, but they took in 2 kids that were, his sister's kids.
Aww.
Paul O'Keefe also testified that his brother sometimes did talk about arguments with Reed, He didn't say too much. If they were arguing, he may give reference that they were arguing. He didn't really tell me what they were arguing about. He mostly kept that to himself. He said the arguments would sometimes have to do with Reed spending too much money on the kids' gifts.
Oh.
So, like, I mean, that's not, like, crazy.
No.
I know there was some arguments over, what she fed them, whether it's, Dunkin' Donuts or whatnot, but it was things along those lines. One occasion, he said he witnessed one intense fight between the two of them during a trip to Cape Cod. That must have been the Aruba trip. He said it was a verbal argument. John O'Keefe and Reed had been drinking alcohol, and Reed complained that John wasn't nice to her. I was kind of the referee in the situation. He also described receiving a phone call from his mother at 6:40 a.m. on the day of John's death. She called and said something happened to your brother. They found him in the snow and they took him to the hospital. He testified about seeing Reed at the hospital, being restrained by staff screaming, "Is he alive? Is he alive? Is he alive?" Paul O'Keefe also described his relationship with Reed as a good one and said he thought she was a good influence on his niece and nephew. He said Reed also became very friendly with his wife. So this is for her, like he brought them up to show like these are two people that were the closest to the relationship.
Yeah.
The second witness to the stand was Paul O'Keefe's wife, Erin. She testified about the Aruba trip, saying that Reed had reached out to her to say that she had seen John O'Keefe kissing someone else in the lobby of the hotel they were staying at. She also testified about speaking to Reed by phone soon after the body was discovered. She just yelled back in the phone that John's dead. So I think her defense brought them up there because he knew they were going to try to paint a picture of this awful, relationship. The next witness was, it says, a Canton police officer. So the third and final witness of that day, I guess this was the first day of trial, was Canton police officer, and it's Stephen Seraph, I believe, a 27-year-old veteran of the department who was the first officer to respond to the 911 call, reporting O'Keefe's body in the snow. He recalled finding Reed visibly upset and saying, "This is all my fault. This is all my fault. I did this." He added, she kept asking, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" and confirmed that she said the phrase several times, yelling. Prosecutors showed dash cam video of Seraph pulling up to the scene on Fairview Road in the snow that morning. It showed the officer jump out of his cruiser and say what happened. In several moments, the sound of yelling can be heard. Then 3 women come into view. One appears frantic. The state said they had no further questions at that time, but Reed's lawyer did. So he wanted to cross-examine this officer.
Do we have her on body cam or whatever?
I have those.
Saying that she did it?
No.
So we don't ever have any camera.
There's no actual footage where you can hear her saying it.
How come everyone's saying she's saying it, but we can't get it on tape?
Yeah. I think they're going to bring that up.
Okay.
Her defense attorney began the next day with the cross-examining of that Stephen Seraph about details concerning the day O'Keefe's body was found. Seraph testified. At that point, he says it was Karen Reed that was trying, to do life-saving measures. And he says McCabe was calm in her demeanor, which that's one of the people she called to come. And I'm pretty sure Jennifer McCabe her sister is married to Brian Albert, and that is Brian and Nicole's house.
Oh, okay.
So she was the one that was there that night, but she got picked up that morning to go back and look for them.
Gotcha.
And here's a little teaser. So McCabe is expected to be called as a witness during the trial, and the defense has claimed she searched how long to die in the cold. Hours before O'Keefe's body was found in front of the home of her brother-in-law, Brian Albert, who is also a Boston police officer. According to the defense, McCabe then tried to delete that search, and she misspelled it like she was drunk. And I guess she made that, I want to say that Google search is like 2:48 a.m.
And that was Jennifer McCabe.
Yeah, who was at the house party inside the house. Who is it's her sister's house. Nicole Albert is her sister.
Okay.
And it's Brian and Nicole's house who was having the party.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, so they're still, her attorney is still questioning this police officer who was on the scene, you know? And he asked, did investigators go into the home or talk to the homeowners after O'Keefe was found? He said, do you think that would have been appropriate protocol when dealing with a body laying on the lawn? No, he replied.
Why is that not proper protocol?
And then her attorney said, you didn't think that would have been appropriate protocol? No, he said again.
No,
And her attorney said, for you or anybody else? And he said, no, the officer repeated.
And that was who?
That is that Seraph guy.
Seraph. Okay. Seraph. Seraph
It's,
is a dumbass.
he was the first one on the scene. Stephen Seraph. And I don't know if I'm saying that. It's Saraf. Am I saying that right?
Sounds as good as anything to me.
Yeah. He was the first to respond to the 911 call. Okay.
How is that not proper protocol? Someone's just dead outside.
And her attorney says, as a law enforcement investigator, the first thing you're looking for are facts. Facts lead to evidence. Evidence can be gleaned from eyewitness accounts, like from the people inside the house, from Ring doorbells, anything that can help you stitch this mystery back again. And the fact that the investigation wasn't thorough provides a big wrinkle in the prosecution's case. Like, you didn't, you know.
That's going to be their biggest thing. Is this prick Michael Proctor and his damning text messages? And even if she did do it, she's not going to get found guilty because of all of this bad. They're just bad. Big F.
Yeah.
Y'all get a big F.
So here's the kicker.
Oh, gosh.
So her attorney said, nowhere in your official report did you say, and in your interview, so he made out a full report. He got interviewed by Trooper Proctor the next day. And did he ever heard her say, this is my fault, I can't believe this happened, or I hit him? And nowhere did he put that in his report or in his interview. And her attorney asked, and he said, that's correct. And her attorney said, you think that was a pretty important omission on your part? And he said, it was an oversight.
How is that an oversight?
And he said, an oversight that a woman who you made contact with standing over a body of a fallen police officer said to you, this is my fault, I hit him, you just missed that one? Yes, I missed it. I didn't write it down. So this comes later. Is when the only time they start bringing up these comments is when they do that thing to get her indicted. What's that called? Like, you know, before it actually goes, when people have to come forward to make their case, and then they, you know. But it wasn't originally in these statements.
See, I feel like if someone... I'm not a police officer.
Oh, it's called his testimony to the grand jury trial. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, so I feel like I'm not a police officer, so maybe I don't know good practices, but I don't think these guys do either. So I feel like if I'm standing over a dead person and a woman sitting there saying, oh my God, I did this, it's my fault, I'd been like, okay, lady, let's move you away from the dead body. We're going to set you over here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Was it your first day on the job?
27-year-old, but so no, not his first day. So then her attorney asked him if his testimony to the grand jury and at trial about what Reed said is accurate by his memory, to which the officer replied yes. So he remembered, then when she was getting... So,
You literally put your hand on a Bible and say you're going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God, and you're out here lying. You're out here fibbing.
so he gets done. Her attorney says, I'm done with you. Like, you just proved, my point. And they're going to call another police officer who responded on the scene that day. And his name is Stephen Mullaney, Mullaney. How do you say that? He
Mullaney?
testified about his distance from the incident, the route he took, the amount of time it took him to get there, and others he saw at the scene, including Seraph, that police officer, O'Keefe, Reed, and McCabe. He testified that there was no snow on O'Keefe's body, but that was clear he had been in the conditions, with water frozen to his face. He said he did not notice any injuries on O'Keefe's body at the time. As O'Keefe was being put into an ambulance, Mullaney said Reed repeatedly screamed, "Is that my boyfriend? Is he dead?" Defense attorney David cross-examined Mullaney afterwards, asking the officer whether he saw Reed attempting to perform CPR at the scene. Mullaney said he did notice Reed was hysterical, screaming, and appeared to be distraught and in shock. McCabe was not, the officer testified. She was not screaming, she was not yelling, she was not hysterical, she was not distraught, she was calm. Mullaney also confirmed Seraph's account that Reed repeatedly screamed, "Is that my boyfriend? Is he dead?" So we didn't get much out of him. The next person's going to be a firefighter and a paramedic who was among the first to respond to the scene where the body was found. And it says his last name is Nettle. He testified that when he arrived, there were 3 women huddled around what appeared to be a human form laying in the snow. Nettle said he found the body of a man, later identified as O'Keefe, laying on his back in the snow. "I immediately went to him and checked him for signs of life," he said. "We found none. We found no breathing, no pulse, so we immediately began performing high-quality CPR." Nettle said there was a small pool of blood that seemed to be underneath O'Keefe, but it was hard to see in the darkness. He testified that O'Keefe had a hematoma or an egg on the right side of his face, just above his eye, on the forehead, and scratches on his upper right arm. But that cop just before said there was no noticeable injuries. The individual was cold all around to touch. His nose was cold. He talks about there appeared to be a little blood on his nose as well. All of his digits were cold. He said at one point he asked the women what happened. One of them replied several times, "I hit him, I hit him." He said he couldn't identify the woman other than to say that she had blood on her face, apparently from having performed CPR. So I guess during cross-examination, her attorney Jackson tried to establish that the hematoma on O'Keefe's head could have been from the result of being in a fight. Nettle said it could be for multiple reasons. He couldn't. So her attorney was basically trying to cast doubt that, this could have been from anything. Then they called the fire lieutenant, who was another one of the first responders at the scene. He's asked a series of questions that are similar. He described the snowy conditions on the day with the messy roads and darkness. The first thing he observed as he pulled up to the scene was 2 women who were going back and forth between a body and the side of the street, one who appeared to be pushing on the man's chest. So that's for that day. The next day, what they're going to be talking about is Reed's defense team are going to try to attempt to prove the claim, accusing law enforcement of planting the broken taillight evidence, ignoring the accounts of a snowplow driver who says he never saw O'Keefe's body on the front lawn, and overall raising questions about how the investigation was handled. So I guess there was also a snowplow driver who'd went through, you know what I mean, and never saw a body before, he was found at that time.
Did the snowplow guy hear her say, I hit him, I hit him?
I don't know, but everyone and their brother
I know.
has.
That's why I'm like, how come everyone's saying that?
Yeah, everyone's saying that.
But they're saying it.
What are your thoughts right now hearing more?
I am still do not know how they're going to convince a jury without a doubt.
Do you
Now,
think she did
the
it?
jury,
Or do you not?
no. I honestly, I don't know.
Right. You
I
haven't
don't
heard,
know.
I haven't. That was me. Like, I haven't heard anything that makes me really
Think
that I'm
she
like,
did or
yeah.
didn't.
Like, where
Like, it's possible she did, but it's
How
also
did-
possible she didn't.
a lot of people I saw online were like, how did they even bring this to, like, what,
I don't know either. I do not know how they're going, because a jury can think you did it
Yeah.
all day long.
Yeah.
But they have to prove that without a doubt. There could be zero doubt. For 12 people, if one of those people
Yeah.
is not convinced, you're screwed. I'm so confused at this trial. I'm ready for the smoking gun, but I just don't have. I have a feeling it's not going to exist. People
Sorry.
can say that she said that she hit him over and over, but until you can prove to me that she said that, or maybe she's afraid, like she knew she was drunk when she left, and she dropped him off, and maybe she hit him when she left and didn't even realize it until the next day. She's like, "Oh my God, I must have done this."
Yeah, and that was my thought is maybe there was a part of her where she was drunk and he was close to where, she was like, "Oh my God, did I hit him?"
Yeah, think like blaming herself because she's so distraught.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
from
pretty
everything
sure
I've heard,
a lot of them and I haven't gotten that far into it, but I've seen, I think they all still had like a high blood alcohol level that morning. Like they shouldn't have been out driving in snowy conditions.
why is it? I don't know. Maybe she did hit him, and maybe she didn't even realize she hit him. She was so drunk. She just like, what? Like that. And then what's her face found him in the snow, but she's like, well, I don't want to drag him in the house, so I'm going to Google how long it takes for someone to die in the snow. Oh my God.
So I just skimmed through this part and I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm just going to kind of try to summarize it. One of the first responders who I know testified in the grand jury and brought up like the I hit him, I believe. Right now, her defense attorney, her last name is McLaughlin, about her relationship with Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert's daughter. They were like good friends. They vacationed together. So one of the first responders, who gives like some testimony, her attorney saying like she's best friends with these people that, and tries saying that they're close friends. Like it's hard to take into account this witness and what she says when, she's good friends with these people. There were a couple other firefighters and paramedics who testified about the scene and Reed's demeanor, and a lot of them said that she was distraught and she performed CPR.
See, to me, the reaction that she's having from what I've heard is it sounds like the reaction you would make if you were genuinely upset. Usually when people kill somebody and they're trying to act a certain way, you can tell. Like to
Yeah.
me, I think she's genuinely upset.
It says first responders testified at the hearing. This is the different things they heard. I hit him. He's effing dead. Is he alive? This is when
Surely.
she was indicted by the grand jury. But I don't know.
I mean, she must have said that.
And maybe
If
she did.
everyone is saying she said it.
Yeah.
I just don't know why we don't separate her from the guy and like question her immediately when she's saying that
Yeah.
she's the one that hit him.
It's just strange. So the state's attorney asked another first responder police at the scene what they found, and he said he described seeing 3 women at the scene in addition to O'Keefe. He said O'Keefe's body was covered by 4 to 6 inches of snow when he arrived. And like they bring this up because other people testified there wasn't any snow.
Was there snow or not?
A previous witness earlier in the week had testified that O'Keefe was dressed for the weather. And this person, I guess, said he was underdressed in a long sleeve t-shirt and jeans.
There's no way she's getting found guilty. I will be shocked if everybody's testimonies are going against each other like this. There's just no way.
So this guy that the state brought, he said he talked to her first, Karen Reed, because she seemed to be the most distressed. He said she was attempting to perform CPR, but her behavior was erratic. We tried to get any type of information we could from her at that time with no luck, he said. The only response I was given was, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him.
Oh my God.
He said Reed's comments were very loud and she didn't answer his additional questions, only repeating that. So then her attorney cross-examined this guy, and I can't even say his last name. It's Flamati, Flematti. Flamati.
Do your best.
To his questions on the night, they bring up like the dash cam video where it shows he was having a discussion with Reed. And I guess he was showing it to him, and Flamati struggled to identify any of the people in the dash cam video, including himself, because the video was at least partly obscured by the weather conditions. I think it was still like snowing. Her attorney showed a portion of the dash cam video showing the ambulance doors being closed and asked him if he was inside the ambulance at that point. He said he was in the ambulance at some point, but couldn't confirm he was inside the ambulance the entire time, saying he might have exited the vehicle to collect equipment. Her defense attorney appeared to be trying to get him to confirm that he was inside the ambulance and thus wasn't a part of the group of first responders speaking to Reed outside. He says in the video it shows this guy not even like talking to her, like he was basically working in the ambulance the entire time. And he also pointed out that nowhere in his reports did he mention to investigators or doctors that he believed Reed had told him that O'Keefe might have been hit by a vehicle. And he said, it would have been important, yes. And he said, it's not in the reports. And he put no.
Dumbasses.
To me, it's just like, if she was really telling everyone she hit him, like, no one wrote it down, no one at that time, you know what I mean?
Why did we all collectively ignore that statement?
Right. We're going to get past all the first responders and all that. We're going to move on because that was a lot. We're going to talk to the guy. His name is Paul Gallagher. He was in charge of preserving the crime scene where O'Keefe was found. He testified that he received a call around 6 a.m. on the day of O'Keefe's death from Sergeant Sean Godey, the police department's shift supervisor, telling him that O'Keefe had been found unresponsive in the snow. He said he responded to the scene. By the time he arrived, he said O'Keefe was no longer at the scene. After receiving an update on the case from 2 sergeants at the scene, they decided to process the scene where O'Keefe was found. He said there were at least 4 inches of snow in the area when he went over to where O'Keefe's body was found. He called it a unique scene due to the weather. He said there were some light pink spots in the snow, which might have been blood. He said they decided to process the scene with a leaf blower in an attempt to blow the snow off the area in a controlled fashion. I had never processed a scene in the snow, Gallagher said. Prosecutors also showed a series of photos from the snowy scene showing a broken glass and several pink spots where Gallagher said were frozen or colgated blood. They were also shown a video of Gallagher operating the leaf blower at the scene. After blowing some of the snow away, the cocktail glass and pinkish red spots that Gallagher described as blood became visible. So there was a cocktail glass also out there by him.
Where'd he get that?
Right.
Where did that come from? Did he steal it from the bar that they were at?
I mean, people have done that.
Yeah, but he's a cop.
Let's be serious. We were concerned with the weather destroying biological evidence at the time. We are trying to take the snow that had fallen over the blood. We were trying to remove it to expose the blood, he said. Since the blood samples were frozen, Gallagher said investigators collected the blood samples in plastic cups, which were later turned over to state police. Now, from what I've read, I gotta keep going. They were just red Solo plastic cups that I think they got from a neighbor's house.
Red Solo cup.
But I mean, from like a neighbor's with that you're collecting. Okay.
That's professional.
Gallagher also testified about the examination of Reed's SUV, which prosecutors allege she hit O'Keefe with, and the video of the vehicle being examined was shown to jurors. Okay, so under cross-examination, her lawyer asked him if he wrote a report about his role in the case. He said he did not. The details matter in a case like this, her attorney said. He asked Gallagher if he made any sort of diagram showing where the cocktail glass or blood evidence were discovered at the scene. Gallagher said he did not. We don't typically exercise that in our investigative unit.
What? Well, okay, well then where's the crime scene unit?
He said Jackson pointed out that there were no glass or blood were found were estimate or guesses since no measures were taken. Gallagher also said he'd never processed a crime scene in the snow until this one. He said this was his first time he had used a leaf blower at a crime scene. He also confirmed that the cups used to collect the blood evidence were red Solo cups provided by a member of the Canton Police Department who lived near the scene. We improvised, he said.
Why? Why are... This is a dead police officer.
Right.
What the fuck?
Red Solo cups from a neighbor's house.
We're not documenting how we're processing the scene. Just because, okay, as a police officer, okay, you're not gonna be, what should I say here? You're not gonna be exposed to every single scenario that you might come across. You're expected to know what the fuck to do and to be able to do it the correct way. That's why we, as taxpayers, put our trust in you, and you literally failed the system.
Yeah, this is a fallen police officer. So her attorney asked Gallagher if he found a shoe, because there's a shoe missing, by the way. He only had one shoe on. Or any pieces of broken taillight at the scene. Evidence that was reportedly found at the scene later by investigators. Gallagher said he did not. So the guy preserving the entire crime scene.
Now, if they would have went and checked this Albert house, they may have found this other shoe to prove he was inside the house at some point.
So then...
Oh, this one is really getting to me.
Her defense attorney also displayed pictures of Reed's SUV, focusing in on a dirty rag shown on the floor of the bay where the vehicle was being kept by police and a Stop and Shop grocery bag. And he said, "That does not look like an evidence bag, does it?" Her attorney asked. And he said, "No." And he said, "Certainly not sterile." He also shown a top view of the paper bag with 6 red Solo cups in it, containing what Gallagher confirmed were blood samples from the scene. Her attorney asked if having the bag this close to the SUV is a recipe for cross-contamination. He replied, "It's not yes or no, but for your purpose, I would say yes," Gallagher said. He later explained under questioning from the prosecution that the evidence in the photos was being transferred over to the state police investigators at the time, and the process was being overseen by a criminologist. So they had it like in a plastic bag, not sealed, sitting by her like SUV.
Here's my evidence. I'm pretty sure that's blood. I'm gonna put it in these Solo cups. Oh my god. This is nutty. This is so weird. She's gonna get away with murder if she did it.
Yeah, if she did it, because this
And
is...
I think if she did it, I don't think it was intentional.
No, but it was probably like an under the influence
Yeah, absolutely.
thing.
But she's gonna get away with it if she did it.
Yeah.
I will be shocked. I will definitely be paying attention to this one. Like,
This is wild. Then they go over like the 911 calls they received. It said they received a 911 call from a woman around 5 a.m. asking if they had locked up anyone because the person in question had been out with friends and didn't come home. He didn't know who the caller was at the time, but upon being called to Fairview Road later that morning, he learned that 911 caller from the earlier was from Carrie Roberts. So she is a friend of Karen Reed. It said the prosecution then played the 911 call from Roberts, who could be heard saying, "My friend's boyfriend didn't come home last night." And then the officer can be heard saying that they hadn't locked anyone up. A second 911 call from Jennifer McCabe, who was also with her, that morning, an hour later was then played. This call was more frantic. The police officer asked if anyone could do CPR, and McCabe could then be heard whispering, "I think he's gone." An ambulance with sirens could be heard arriving in the background. The police officer who was on duty, who took the 911 calls, he was working all night long, okay? Till the morning shift. There's a guy named Ben Higgins who is really good friends with Brian Albert, who's also a police officer. This Ben Higgins is a police officer as well, okay? And I'm pretty sure, I think we'll find out later on, I think he might have been in and out of the party that night, this other police officer named Ben Higgins. But this police officer who was there who took the 911 calls, his last name is Godey, and he was on duty the night O'Keefe was killed. He said he saw Ben Higgins enter the police station at about 1:30 a.m. Godey testified he didn't know why he was there or where he was coming from, but he said it wasn't unusual to see him at 1:30 in the morning on a weekend and wasn't sure how long he was at the station. They then asked if they examined any of the cell phones or cellular at the home of the time, and the defense, Godey confirmed that they never examined it. Everyone agreed that it was a chaotic scene and that Reed appeared to be in a distressed screaming state. Godey recalls officers scurrying on the ground for evidence with the help of the leaf blower, and investigators were on their hands and feet looking for anything while they worked through. When press noted they didn't find the pieces of Reed's broken taillight that would later be found at the house or O'Keefe's missing shoe. So, I mean, they had a leaf blower. They had multiple people, digging through the snow where his body was found, and they didn't find that. They asked him if any officers guarded the crime scene for the 2 hours that they were there, and that there were no protocol for putting up a tent or keeping the scene from the elements. For some reason, they asked him that Godey did a report, and Brian Albert's name was the only one not spelled out on the report. Godey returned to the stand. He was asked about the station's key swipe system, through which Godey and other officers, when they enter and exit 2 parts of the police station, are logged. He showed two versions of a report on the case from different dates, where the major difference was the photo had changed. The one from a later date showed a broken taillight, though Godey didn't see that at the scene himself. He explained that the document shown was not the actual meat of the report and that it might change based on supplement reports filed by investigators. This happened on January 29th. So they jump ahead to the morning of February 4th when Gallagher had returned to the scene for the first time, possibly discovered more evidence. Temperatures had warmed up and it had rained, melted snow, and that's when he found the broken glass, and that's when the strands of tail light in the pictures were taken. So that's like 4 or 5 days later.
I don't feel like that's credible evidence.
No.
Like, I get how that can happen, but I don't think it can be credible. It wasn't found at the scene of the crime when the crime occurred.
Her attorney played a dash cam video from the scene and brought up the phone call that was made to dispatch, in which an officer said it appeared O'Keefe had been in a fight. And then he asked them, and of course they're like, you know what I mean, that could have been, you know? Mm-hmm. They talked to people that were at the bar. Everyone who testified said that they got along great, you know, looked like a happy couple.
I feel like even if she is found guilty, she's just going to be found guilty of, like, involuntary manslaughter or something. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not even going to be anything that's...
Mm-hmm. Basically, her lawyer does a lot of asking, like, these law enforcement agents and first responders. He's making ties that they were all connected and really good friends with the Alberts. And that goes on for a lot of questioning with him. You know what I mean? Being like, they've been friends for 10 to 12 years, you know. And he's establishing that all these people, and he's a cop. So then he brings up Nicole Albert testifies, which is the wife. She's the homeowner. He wants to know why they sold their house so fast. And she said the housing market was really good, that it was the market and it had nothing to do with the incident. And she said absolutely not. She also said that her daughter was the last person to leave their gathering at their house around 2 a.m. Nicole said she was the only one still awake. Her son and husband had already gone to sleep. Albert testified that she didn't hear or see anything unusual outside her house at any point that night. A short time later, after cleaning up the house, she said she went to sleep around 2:30. She said her husband was still awake, lying in bed and watching television. Between 6 and 6:30 the next morning, she said her sister Jennifer McCabe came busting into my bedroom. She's saying, "He's out in the snow. We found him out in the snow. We don't know if he's okay." My immediately thought was just that I thought something had happened to one of my children. I couldn't imagine what she was doing in my bedroom at this time in the morning. She was hysterical. Nicole said that Jennifer eventually told her that O'Keefe had been found outside on their lawn and investigators wanted to speak with her and her husband. Nicole Albert said the dog had been up in their bedroom, but Brian let her out to go to the bathroom soon after arriving home. The backyard was fenced in, she said. After that, she said Brian Albert brought the dog back upstairs. She also said they always planned to move. She was asked if she observed any sort of tension between O'Keefe and Reed at the waterfall on the night before O'Keefe was found dead. Albert said she did not. She also said she saw no evidence that Reed was under the influence of alcohol. Albert also testified that she saw her husband and his friend Higgins fooling around at the waterfall that night, which she described as practice fighting. She also confirmed under questioning that her husband does have training as a boxer. Her attorney also got Albert to testify that her dog on an instance has injured 2 people. Albert said that 4 months after O'Keefe's death, the family rehomed their dog, which they had previously owned for 6 years. She also had a conversation with that Michael Proctor, and it said that she left out evidence during an interview, including some of the key people who were at her house on the night before O'Keefe died, including her nephew, Colin Albert. She said, I didn't mention Colin because I didn't consider him as part of the group that we were hanging out with at the waterfall because he left as soon as I walked in. I didn't even think of him. The defense attorney then referenced the 2 phone calls that Jennifer McCabe made to Albert at 6:07 and 6:08 that records show were answered. So she kind of acted like she was just woken up, you know? And she said, I never answered any phone calls for my sister that morning. Albert said, she may have placed those calls to me, but I never answered them. I never spoke to her that morning. Let's see. What do you make of that, Emily?
I don't know. My brain, well, you said Brian Albert he was trained in boxing and stuff, right? And people say that it's possible that this wasn't a car hit, he got beat up.
Yeah.
What if someone just beat his ass?
Well, the
and left
person
him in the cold and just
the
thought,
person she left out is Colin Albert, their nephew, who is a known fighter, goes to jail for fighting, has bloody knuckles constantly. That's why he was mentioning why did you omit when you mentioned everyone that was at your house, you didn't mention him? Because he is known for just wanting to start fights, you know?
But we were so adamant on Karen that I'm doubting anybody ever looked at anybody's
Right.
knuckles or anything.
Yeah. So then Karen Dream Defense, they pick up questioning on Julie Albert, who spoke to her friend Courtney Proctor, the sister of the trooper, Michael Proctor, the lead investigator. It said Albert confirmed that she rarely spoke with Courtney Proctor, but pointed out that they actually had 67 phone conversations in a 7-month period. It's not a lot, I wouldn't think. It's a lot in 7 months, Albert said. 3 times in one day, is that rarely? The attorney asked, and she said no, but it wasn't every day, Albert replied. She was also asked if she discussed the O'Keefe death investigation, but she said she couldn't remember. So basically they're saying you were talking to his sister all the time, this Michael Proctor's sister. And she said it was a long time ago, I just don't remember. Because, again, this is going on now, and this was 2 years ago. And then they zoned in on a conversation Albert had with Courtney Proctor February 1st, 2022, the day Reed was arrested in connection with O'Keefe's death, and 3 phone conversations she had with Proctor on the following day when Reed was arraigned. Did the subject of Karen Reed's arraignment come up in any of those 3 calls? And she said, I don't remember. Also asked about another 27-minute phone call on the same day after the arraignment had happened, but Albert said she didn't recall if they discussed Reed or the arraignment. I don't remember what I was talking about, she said, but she acknowledged it could have been.
It's a small town. You're talking about it. You're talking about it.
Yeah.
If someone in Linton
Right.
just got arraigned for the murder of their boyfriend, we'd be freaking talking about it. Don't pretend you weren't talking about it. You were freaking talking about it. That's what everyone was talking about, I'm sure.
It just looks bad since she's related to the Alberts and she's talking to the lead the lead sister, you know?
This Michael Proctor.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
So they bring up that his nephew, Colin Albert was at his house on the night, and Albert didn't initially tell police that Colin Albert was at his house that night. Brian Albert said he didn't mention it, so he didn't mention it either. When they both got asked on separate occasions, they both left him out. Because he said Colin had left soon after Brian arrived to the home. In your initial reports to police, his name was never mentioned, was it? And he said, I did not mention it. So her attorney asked Albert about his police training, including whether he has ever received training on criminals, covering up crime scenes, or deleting phone evidence. Albert said he hadn't. He also asked Albert about his cell phone and specifically a directive from the district attorney office that he had to preserve his cell phone due to a motion filed by the defense in the Reed case. When the district attorney's office informed him of this, Albert said he had just upgraded his phone a week earlier, but didn't mention that to the district attorney. Where is your phone? Her attorney asked. And he said, my phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone, Albert replied. He said he upgraded it in the third week of September, around the 22nd of 2022, the day before a court order that is to be preserved. So he got rid of his phone.
Convenient. Why do people do this? They're so dumb.
He said the fact that he turned in the phone just a day before he was told not to destroy it was just coincidence. So her attorney asked Albert if Trooper Michael Proctor had entered the Albert's house on January 29th and did an interview. And he said he conducted an interview with my wife and I, but I don't remember it was the 29th or the 30th. But her attorney said the interview actually occurred on February 3rd, days after O'Keefe had died. He also got Albert to acknowledge that forensic experts never came into the house as part of the investigation. He asked him about boxing. He confirmed that, he did have that. And there was surveillance video from the bar showing Albert and Higgins appearing to square off in the fighting stance, as described as a form of horseplay. Now remember, this Higgins guy who was out with them drinking and partying also made a trip to the police station at 1:30 in the morning.
For why?
For why? And they claimed that they were just fooling around. So Albert, the owner of this home, and this Higgins were just play fighting and wrestling. Her attorney asked Albert if he put his phone on charge when he got home after the waterfall. He said he didn't and kept it in bed with him instead. All I can answer is I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do. Her attorney asked Albert if he made any phone calls after he went to bed. He said he did. I inadvertently called Brian Higgins sometime after 2 a.m., but he said he never spoke with Higgins. It was kind of a butt dial, Albert said. Her attorney also pointed out that Albert had previously said that he and his wife Julie were in bed around the time the phone call to Higgins was made. Her attorney referenced a call Brian Albert made to Higgins at 2:22 a.m. on the same night that lasted 1 second. He also referenced a second call for 17 seconds later from Higgins to Albert. That call lasted 22 seconds, according to phone records. I did not answer it, Albert said. Her attorney said if it was a missed call, as Albert said, it should have shown the missed call in red. He also pressed Albert on how the phone could have butt dialed Higgins, since it should have required a passcode or facial recognition in order to unlock it. I don't know that my phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone, Albert said. I butt dial people often to make calls. Her attorney said, so how you missed the call 17 seconds later, Jackson said. I never got the second call from him, Albert said. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second. Was the phone unlocked, and did you make a call? Jackson said. I don't know, Albert said. He also said he didn't answer the ensuing call from Higgins. Simply touching your butt will not answer that phone. It has to be swiped, her attorney said. No, I don't think it has to be swiped, Albert said. I don't remember answering that call. I could have hit the phone by accident, causing it to answer. The next morning, Albert said he mentioned to Higgins that he might have butt dialed him. Since that time, Jackson again stressed that Albert and Higgins have both gotten rid of their phones. So these two that were playing butt dials with each other, not actually talking to each other. One was at the police station doing something. The other one claimed to be asleep while these calls are going back and forth. But they're butt dials.
I just imagine Karen Reed sitting there like, this is great. They're all fighting each other over here.
Yeah.
She doesn't even need a lawyer. She could represent herself. At this point, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like now it's a point of whether or not she did it. It's a point of whether or not these other people did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And they both got rid of their phones.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, it's not weird to upgrade your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, trade it in and get an upgrade. That's not weird.
Mm-mm.
But the timing was weird.
Mm-hmm.
The day before he was supposed to hand it over.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know he got a heads up from somebody.
Yeah. All them police officers are looking out for each other.
Uh-huh.
The thing is like, who's looking out for the dead police officer?
Right.
Who's looking out for him?
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that whatever happened to John O'Keefe is an accident. Whether Karen hit him and didn't realize she hit him and then he died of hypothermia.
Right. But at this point, it's like, what the heck is going on, though? Like, what really happened?
I don't know. And I think it's also easy to think that maybe one of the guys, they were horsing around. They beat the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
They just left him in the snow like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
spend a night out in the snow, not realizing that he
Yeah.
was going to die. But after he did, they're like, oh shit, we got to cover this up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why What's-Her-Face, they're like, yeah, we left him in the snow. And that's why What's-Her-Face looked up on Google how long does it take for someone to die in the cold.
Right. Now, what I'm reading right now, a couple people are testifying that there was a black SUV seen outside the home around like 1:30, 2:30.
So a black SUV was seen, but
Yeah.
his dead body wasn't seen. No one saw his dead body until 6 a.m. I'm confused. The math ain't mathin', folks.
Mm-mm. And then this Colin Albert, there's different time frames when he actually left because they claimed, you know what I mean? He was leaving when they got there. And there's also that he didn't leave till later. They like read text messages that were, they say they got home at 11:30 when he was leaving, but it was a long thing, but he texted people at like 12:45 saying, come pick me up, that he was there. So they say they omitted his name because when they got home from the bar, he was leaving and he wasn't part of the house party. But he sent text messages asking people to come get him. That was like an hour and so, you know what I mean, after the two Alberts claimed that he left. And that's why they didn't, you know what I mean, mention him. So it's like, did he leave? Did he not leave? And he was never interviewed by anybody. So this is Matthew McCabe that they brought to the stand, which there's so many people. This is Jennifer McCabe's husband. Jennifer McCabe it's her sister's house. She's the one that was with her when they discovered the body. So they're bringing her husband to the stand. Okay. He said he woke up to screaming of Jen, Jen, Jen. So when I woke up, I thought there was somebody in my bedroom. When he woke up, he said he realized that his wife, Jennifer McCabe, was actually on the phone. I asked my wife what was going on, and I could hear her saying, I'm on the phone with Karen. She can't find John. He said the phone conversation continued for multiple minutes and then continued screaming from Reed on the other end of the line. She didn't know where John was, and the last time she saw him was at the waterfall. McCabe said of what Reed was saying to his wife. He said his wife then started making phone calls to other people who had been at the waterfall bar and grill the night before. Matthew McCabe said he remembered seeing Reed's vehicle outside 34 Fairview Road that morning. I thought she was crazy, he said, because I saw her vehicle. I saw the black SUV arrive to 34 Fairview that morning. He said Jennifer McCabe told Reed, but she said she didn't remember going there. Matthew McCabe said he also heard Reed say something to the effect that she had broken her tail light on her vehicle. We were completely confused as to where John was. We knew that John had mentioned that he was potentially going to be meeting up with another person, so my wife called that individual to see if by chance he did go with her. Did he get out of the car? Did he go somewhere else? He said his wife made several phone calls, but no one answered. Matthew McCabe said he tried texting and calling O'Keefe saying, "Where the hell are you? Now Karen and Jen are out looking for you," but never received any responses. He said his wife went downstairs and Matthew McCabe started getting dressed. They were planning to drive to the house of the man they thought O'Keefe might have met up with. He said he then heard yelling in his front yard and realized it was Reed. I told my wife, "Please tell her to shut up. She's going to wake up the whole neighborhood," he said. Matthew McCabe said he assumed O'Keefe was just sleeping on someone's couch. He said his wife and Reed then went out looking for O'Keefe while he stayed home with their 4 kids. About an hour later, he said his wife called him and said they had found O'Keefe. 34 Fairview Road. He finished getting dressed and drove to Fairwood to meet them. He recalled seeing an ambulance and said Carrie Roberts was also there. She said she was dropping Karen off and going to pick up O'Keefe's parents. They were both out with them, that night, all of them together. And he said he testified that they appeared to be enjoying each other's company. He asked what mood they were in. He said they were both happy and getting along. Everything was good. There were no arguments. He said he does remember the 2 guys horseplaying and squaring up like they were going to fight each other. McCabe also confirmed that Albert and Higgins were 2 of the people who went back to Brian Albert's home on Fairview Road. He acknowledged that others in the group, including O'Keefe and Higgins, were also invited to the Albert home. McCabe said he was one of the last people to leave the waterfall that night. His wife was already in their car in the parking lot, and he met her there and drove to the Alberts' home on Fairview Road. He said they parked in the driveway, and there were at least 2 other vehicles already parked there. When he arrived, he said there was also a Jeep with a plow parked at the end of the driveway in front of the mailbox. He later found out that Jeep belonged to Higgins. McCabe also confirmed he saw a black SUV parked in front of the Alberts' home at some point in the night, and Higgins' Jeep was still parked in front of the mailbox at the time. I guess he saw a black SUV in 2 different spots. McCabe also testified that he never saw O'Keefe inside the black SUV, never heard any yelling, crash noises, or screams of pain coming from outside the Albert house. So I guess he's saying he was there when she supposedly pulled up and dropped him off. There was music playing in the house, so I didn't hear anything. He said when he left the Albert house that night, he left with his wife and Karen Levinson and Julie Nagel. The black SUV was no longer there, and he said he didn't see anyone or anything on the lawn. So it's saying, she was obviously there dropping him off. People were coming and going, and no one saw. That they also say they didn't see him in the house. These people do. That's another thing. No one that was in there says he made it in the house.
Maybe he didn't.
They asked him, "John never went inside the house. It's not a story. It's a fact," McCabe said. "I was saying we don't know what happened. He never came in the house."
Is there any way he could have been so drunk that he fell and hit his head off of something and then just stayed on the ground and no one did anything? You know what I mean? Was there anything nearby that could have caused that bump on his head, that goose egg?
So then they got his wife on the stand, Jennifer McCabe, who came to the scene that morning with her friend.
I want to hear what she has to say.
I do
What's she
too.
gonna do? She's gonna say
So
something.
McCabe testified that she saw a dark SUV outside the Albert home that night and texted O'Keefe, here, question mark. They looked at the text exchange between McCabe and O'Keefe, entered into evidence, but the defense objected. The judge asked him to redact certain images from the text messages over lunch break. The text messages between McCabe and O'Keefe were entered into evidence after lunch break. The first was at 12:14 a.m. O'Keefe to McCabe, saying where to. McCabe sent O'Keefe a text saying here, question mark. She said she sent that text after seeing the dark SUV out front of the Alberts home. 4 minutes later, she sent a text saying, pull behind me. She said she sent this message after seeing the SUV move to tell O'Keefe to park behind her vehicle. 12:40, she sent another text saying hello. McCabe said she wasn't sure if the SUV was still there, if it had already left by that point. 12:42, she texts O'Keefe, where are you? And then hello at 12:45. McCabe said she never received any response from O'Keefe. The next text she sent to O'Keefe was at 4:59 a.m. when she said, please answer. She then added, Karen is worried. We need to find you. And followed with another text asking him again to answer so she would know that he was okay. So that's strange. But, like, if he got out of the SUV, they were all talking like maybe he was meeting up with someone else. I mean, could he had had someone picked him up? Could he have told his wife, like, drop me off here at this party? She left and he had someone pick him. I don't know. And then bring him back there later.
I don't know. I think we're asking a lot of intoxicated people to remember things that they can't remember correctly. But to me, it's weird that she's texting him.
He's not responding.
And she's just like, he asks her a question and she says, yeah. And then she thinks that he's in this black SUV. And then,
he never
texts
responds.
him again and sees it move or something. And then.
But she never thought to go outside.
That's what I'm saying is like.
If you think your friend's out there,
go outside and meet them.
McCabe said Reed told her she had gotten in a fight with O'Keefe and he hadn't come home. McCabe described Reed as hard to understand and extremely irrational during the call. McCabe also said Reed kept asking, could I have hit him? And that she mentioned she had a damaged taillight. McCabe began trying to get in contact with other people to see if she could track down O'Keefe, and she said at this point her husband was awake and told her they had seen Reed and O'Keefe outside of her sister's house. McCabe said she wound up leaving the house to look for O'Keefe when Reed showed up at her house screaming. McCabe described Reed as hysterical at this point. They were joined by Carrie Roberts, and the three of them decided to go back to O'Keefe's home. I saw missing pieces from the taillight, McCabe testified, saying that when they arrived at O'Keefe's driveway, Reed showed them the damage.
See, to me, that sounds like someone that didn't do it on purpose. Like, she's like, oh my God, did I possibly hit him? My taillight's broken. I don't fucking remember shit because I was drunk off my ass. I shouldn't have been driving.
Yeah. And then she just goes into detail. They found him. We know the story. They called 911. Police and EMTs arrived. So this is where it gets, okay. So she testified, okay. The defense had made a search on McCabe's phone of its HOS, long to die in cold, which was supposed to be how. Central to the argument of Reed's innocence, her attorney says she made this search at 2:27 a.m., hours before the 911 call was reported. O'Keefe had been found in the snow. Prosecutors have disputed this timing, arguing McCabe made the search after O'Keefe was found unresponsive. So she's saying she made it. It was just after she saw him in the snow. Would you Google that?
Maybe if I was trying to put a timeline together of how long he could have been out there, maybe. But we can't pinpoint what time she looked that
It
up.
gets better. McCabe testified Friday that she made the search at Karen Reed's request after they found O'Keefe. She grabbed my hands and she said, Google hypothermia. Google how long does it take to die in the cold. McCabe said on the witness stand, I had my phone out and it was cold and my hands were frozen and I have MS and I took my phone out while she was screaming and shaking my arm and I attempted to Google how long does it take to die in the cold. She told the court my hands were shaking as she tried to complete the sentence and that she may have looked it up multiple times but doesn't think she actually got the answer. I was completely in a state of shock and disbelief. Basically, her attorney, it shows she made the search at 2 something and then she manually went in and deleted it. At that time too. And she has another search between that one. And it does show that she made those ones at 6 a.m. But basically, what people are speculating is she was like, oh shit, this is going to show up. So I'm going to act like you know what I mean? That Google's just wrong on times.
Yeah.
Because she made a search in between then, too. It's not like, how did they get that wrong?
Yeah.
You know?
They
Now, what
did.
do you think about that? I mean, why would she Google that at 2 something in the morning?
I don't know. Maybe she's paranoid and her friend is not answering and she's afraid something's happened and he's out in the cold and she's like, how long to die? It is just so weird to me when weird things happen and then someone dies. This, is it a coincidence? Why is she looking that up at 2 a.m.? I don't know.
They ask her about a location, I guess, of the Jeep out front of the home because they say the location of the vehicles in the driveway has been important in the investigation and trial because it helps establish when Reed's SUV, which had Keefe inside, was outside the home. And I guess there's different, of course, accounts of time frames and
Start putting this shit in city budgets. Okay, we're gonna put freaking surveillance cameras on every freaking corner. It's wild.
Okay, so her attorney, McCabe's still on the stand, brings up several text messages McCabe sent to John O'Keefe's phone early that morning, including one at 12:27 a.m. McCabe said she sent that text when she saw Reed's SUV outside and that she knew that for the first 2 of the texts, she walked to the door of the home to look out at the vehicle. When I first saw the vehicle, it was straight ahead out the front door stationary, McCabe said, noting she later saw it move twice. Jackson, which is Reed's attorney, pointed out that seeing it move twice would mean that McCabe had looked out the window at least 3 times, first to see the SUV stationary, then 2 more times to establish the SUV had moved. McCabe confirmed I had clear view of Karen's vehicle outside and that she noticed the SUV was gone by the time she sent a 12:45 a.m. text. She agreed she didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary through the time the SUV drove away. Where was the body? Jackson asked pointedly. I have no idea, McCabe replied. I'm assuming the body was on the front lawn. You were looking at the front lawn, weren't you? The lawyer said. I was looking at the vehicle, McCabe said. There was a testy back and forth McCabe's field of vision, but McCabe eventually confirmed I never saw a body, adding I wish I had. So basically he's saying if you were sitting there watching this whole, you know what I mean, you didn't see anything,
You'd think you'd go outside.
Right.
You saw the SUV.
Yeah.
I personally would have went outside. Is it ever brought up that these two are having
An affair?
Yeah.
I don't know. Not yet, I don't think. That might come out though.
I mean, it's just
This
weird.
is weird.
It's weird that she's texting him so
Uh-huh.
much. Why
Right.
is she so worried about him? I get it, we're worried about our friends, but it's still weird.
Right, and if you're friends with the wife, why aren't you texting? I mean, the girlfriend, why aren't you texting her? Why are you texting her
Yeah, I
boyfriend?
saw your car. Where did you and John go?
No, she's just texting him.
Interesting.
Karen's attorney turned to reports of phone calls extracted from O'Keefe's phone and McCabe's. O'Keefe's phone showed calls from McCabe that her phone didn't. So basically, she deleted them. And her attorney asked McCabe why every call in question was deleted. And she said, I didn't understand that report, and I'm not an expert. And she denied deleting the call logs when Jackson asked if McCabe sanitized your phone because you didn't want the police to know. McCabe did say she deleted with investigators' permission personal conversation she had with her daughters, but that's the only thing. She didn't delete any calls. I do not recall deleting any phone calls at all. I would have no reason to delete anything, McCabe replied, denying deleting calls with any witnesses in this case. So here's a good one. Karen's attorney, whose name is Jackson, asked McCabe about a text her husband testified about sending a group chat with her and several others involved in the case. In it, he said, tell them the guy never went in the house, which he said was in reference to O'Keefe and a reporter covering up the story that morning.
Oof.
McCabe said she didn't understand her husband to be directing her to coordinate their story. John never went in the house. It wasn't a story, it was the truth.
If it was the truth, why do we need to organize it?
Right.
Are you afraid someone's actually going to say he was in the house when he wasn't? No.
Right. They talk about this group chat a little more, which was super weird because they were talking about timelines. And so when they're being questioned, she was like, yeah, we were trying to piece together like the timeline of events. She says she butt dialed John O'Keefe's phone 6 times in the span of 19 minutes. Is that right? And she said, I don't remember making any of those calls. These were the calls she deleted. So my assumption is that I put my phone in my back pocket and that was it, she said. But again, these were the calls that she then deleted. They extracted the series of Google searches. I wish I could show you these because the ones at 2 a.m., there's HOS, how long to die in the cold, and there's another one after that. How long TI die in CIKD was another one. And she denied making it at that time. She said, I did not search at that time. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved. She said she was actually researching a basketball team for her daughter at around 2:30 and left a tab open. She said that when Reed asked her to look it up, how long to die in the cold, when they found O'Keefe's body, she searched it from the same tab, so that's why it was showing 2:30.
Wrong. That wouldn't happen. The search is when the search happened, not when you searched the basketball team.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So this is day 17 of the Karen Reed trial. So if you guys remember me talking about Officer Ben Higgins, he's the one that was with them that night at the bar, went to the house, but mysteriously checked into the police station.
Yeah.
He's the one that was play fighting with Albert. So he gets called to the stand, okay? This is juicy.
Oh, God.
Okay. So what he gets called to the stand for is her attorney, Jackson, wanted to know about his text history with Karen Reed. Okay, so on January 12th, he got a text from Karen Reed, and it said, "Hey, Brian, it's the weed whacker." And this exchange went on like with a question mark. And then I guess there was an instance where he drove by and she was like weed eating or something, and he honked and she flipped him off, and then he turned back around and they kind of just made a joke out of it. So they go back and forth within, I mean, days. And Karen Reed, it gets, I mean, there's a lot, so I'm not going to read every single text exchange, but she like was inviting him over and being flirty. She was like, most couples don't even like each other. She told him there was an incident with John making out with another girl, and that, you know, she caught him. And he said, "You think you can handle me? I thought you were happy." And Reed said, "How do you know if I'm happy?" He said, "I just assumed." Reed said that she thought he was attractive, smart, and witty. This went on. They were like, "What do you want from me?" Reed said to Higgins at one point, he was like, "What's on the table?" Basically, she brought up there was issue with the kids and him, you know, I mean, that other woman, and Higgins also testified about how eventually he and Reed met up for a drink at his house in West Roxbury. He said she wasn't there long. He was basically trying to suss out the situation of what she really wanted. He said it was a weird experience.
Well, I feel like starting an affair is weird. Like,
He's friends
how do you
he's
know how
friends
to
with her police boyfriend too.
Yeah, it's like starting an affair is a weird experience. You're like, what can I say? Like, what can I actually say before things get weird? And then is the other person feeling the same way?
Yeah, he was attracted to her, but he didn't know her end game. Like, you're in a relationship. He was single.
Oh, okay.
So he was kind of like, what does she want, you know?
Yeah.
He said they did share a kiss.
Now, I need to pull that picture up again. I feel like, who are you talking about? Higgins?
Ben Higgins. He's the police officer that was out the same night with them when they were all out drinking, and I guess leading up to this, it says she had ignored him.
Ben Higgins isn't on here. There's a
not
Brian
on
Higgins.
Maybe it's Brian.
Well, but
That's probably Brian
is
Higgins.
Brian.
Yep, that's him. It's Brian, not Ben. I'm so sorry for saying Ben. It's Brian. He thought she was attractive, you know, and she was giving him attention. So this is what's weird. Like, she kissed him at one point, but leading up to like 3 or 4 days prior to, she quit responding to him. And then they were out that night happy, you know, her and her boyfriend. So her attorney is saying he has motive. He was there that night at the party. He was the guy in the Jeep with the plow on the front of it.
I would hope that someone wouldn't like kill somebody over a few flirty text messages. Criminy sakes.
So that basically ended that day 17 of the trial. And then we go to day 18, and I think they conclude his testimony. They asked if Higgins received an order on September of 2022 telling him not to dispose of his phone records, and if he resets his phone anyway. Higgins said he did not reset his phone. They said he met with investigators and told them he did a factory reset on his phone, and he said, "I don't recall that. I don't recall making that statement." Shown records of the interview, Higgin again denies that he ever said that, even though it's in the record. He said the record's inaccurate. Did you either cut up the SIM card or rip it up? And he said, cut it up or broke it, Higgins said, acknowledging that the purpose of doing that was to make sure no one else could use it. But he denied he cut up the SIM card to keep people from accessing his data. He cut it up so no one else could use it. He said he confirmed that he told investigators, "I made sure nobody could put it in their phone."
Okay, why does that matter?
He drove to a military base and put the destroyed SIM card in the phone into a dumpster on the base. Yeah, I threw it away, he said.
Just a random military base.
Mm-hmm. He said he didn't transfer anything from that phone, including photos, videos, or previous text message.
Okay.
He said he had texts with Kevin, Nicole, Brian, Albert on that phone that he discarded.
That is so sus.
He said, you knew from that day forward no one would ever be able to access that content and what you and Brian and Albert had discussed by text messages on your own phone, correct? And he said, anybody. He said, just everything was out of left field. I just find it hard to believe. He said about his brief flirtation with Reed.
Well, I thought she may have done it on accident, but this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Destroying your phone and the SIM
Yeah.
card?
Mm-hmm.
So you destroy your SIM card and throw it in the trash at a military base? You're really worried someone's going to dig through the trash at a military base looking for a SIM card to put in their phone?
He had to get it up. And they asked him again if he saw anything outside the house on Albert's home the night of January 28th, 29th, and he said he hadn't. He said, if I had saw John O'Keefe on the side of the road, I would have done something to make a difference. Then it says John O'Keefe's nephew takes the stand. ER doctor who treated John O'Keefe testifies. He arrived in cardiac arrest, meaning his heart was not pumping blood and he had no electrical activity of his own. He said his initial body temperature was low, about 80 degrees, which is consistent with hypothermia. He said O'Keefe's time of death was 7:50 a.m. So they found him, remember, in like 6 something, I believe.
So he wasn't even dead when they found him?
Or like he still maybe had activity. You know what I mean?
Oh.
I don't know. Since you're that cold, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out here. The ER doctor also said he had abrasions or scratches on his right forearm. The emergency room doctor said he also treated Reed later that same morning. Oh, Karen Reed. She arrived at the hospital around 7:51 for a Section 12 and an involuntary hospitalization for a mental health concern. I guess since she was acting so erratic and crazy that she just found her boyfriend dead in the snow, the cops did a Section 12 and made her hospitalized for mental health. The cops, that were using red Solo cups and everything.
That were framing her?
Yeah.
She's mentally unstable. No, she just found her boyfriend dead in the snow. I think anybody would be a little hysterical.
So her attorney showed him the medical report, which did not include any reference that O'Keefe might have been struck by a motor vehicle. In fact, there's no mention of a vehicle whatsoever, and he said that's correct. Asked if he observed O'Keefe's injuries when he arrived at the hospital, Rice said he did observe scratches and abrasions on his right arm and a laceration above his eyelid. He had no injuries to his shoulders, chest, torso, back, ribs, hip, knees, shins, ankles, or feet. From the neck down, he did not have a single broken bone, right? You certainly didn't notate in your report that he had any broken bones, correct? And he said, no, I did not. But Rice said his focus at the time was in trying to revive O'Keefe and not on every single detail of his injuries. Basically, her attorney saying if he got hit by a car,
He'd have some broken bones.
it wouldn't be a scratch on the arm and a bump on the head.
If he was hit hard enough to kill him,
Mm-hmm.
he would have some broken bones.
Mm-hmm.
Confusion.
It says the next witness was Nicole Roberts, who worked at the State Police Crime Lab and Toxicology Unit at the time of the investigation. She was doing lab results from the hospital, which was provided as a test and a blood alcohol content. And then it doesn't say much. It doesn't give it or anything. It said it was done as provided in range to account for differences between individuals, but it doesn't say a range. So this last witness, Lewis is his name. He's the manager of information systems of the town of Canton. And he discusses surveillance footage provided by the police for their course of investigation. Basically the GPS and all these little cops' cruisers showing And he said when he received the request from the state police to provide the footage to their defense later in the investigation, the raw footage was no longer available in the system. He testified the GPS tracking available in the town's public work trucks was not working properly during the snowstorm on the night in question. So they subpoenaed all the records of there, and it was gone.
Classic case of weird shit happening when people die. That's what a coincidence.
All right. Now we're on day 19. We're getting there. So, state trooper testified he and his team performed a grid search of the area where John O'Keefe's body was found and recovered several pieces of broken tail light and his missing sneaker. All the items were found on the ground level close to a proximity to each other and between the flagpole and the fire hydrant. They examined Reed's black SUV, observed a broken taillight, a dent in the trunk door, glass fragments on the bumper, and a hair on the rear quarter panel. Harnett tested the undercarriage of Reed's car for blood, which turned out to be negative. Harnett also examined O'Keefe's clothing, sneaker, gray sweatshirt, orange t-shirt, and jeans. Tests confirmed reddish-brown stains on his clothes were blood, including a spot in a sneaker. She said holes and tears on the right sleeve, which appeared to coincide with the injuries to his arm. So his shirt was ripped in the same manner where his marks were swabbed and sent to lab test for canine DNA. Harnett said she could not explain how the damage to the right sleeve occurred. An animal DNA expert testified earlier in the trial that her test showed no results of canine DNA.
Because some people thought that he was attacked by a dog, right?
Then another person did trace evidence analysis, examined the debris collected from O'Keefe's clothes, and found pieces of red and clear plastic. She sent them on to yet another analyst for future examination. She was able to reconstruct the plastic fragments. She was asked to examine into a bigger piece that she said was a physical match to the taillight from Reed's car.
Ruh-roh.
Defense attorney Alan Jackson, which is Reed's attorney, noted that Reed's car was towed from Dignit 40 miles away through a blizzard, suggesting any evidence collected from the car would have been compromised.
Yeah, I don't think these police are realizing that we need to get the evidence that day.
Defense also questioned the chain of custody of the items the scientist examined, suggesting they could have been mishandled and tampered with due to lack of control over the crime scene and their connection to the lead investigator, Michael Proctor. So that is day 19. So we move on to day 20. There's a supervising trooper testified that surveillance video from the bars show Karen Reed and the victim visited the night of January 28th appears to show she consumed 8 drinks in less than 3 hours. Dang.
It's like that Kevin Hart meme.
He recovered John O'Keefe's clothes, which were lying in a pile on the floor of his hospital room, and processed them by putting them into evidence. He displayed his blood-stained clothes to the jurors, which prompted Margaret O'Keefe to leave the courtroom for a spell. Reviewing ring video from O'Keefe's home and observes the defendant backing out of the garage at 5:07 a.m. So that's a lot earlier than when she made it to the crime scene. The morning of January 29th, she appeared to meet O'Keefe's car, which was parked in the driveway. The prosecutor noted the video shows no damage to O'Keefe's car and no taillight fragments left from the impact. The defense maintains exit from the garage is when she damaged her taillight. So they're arguing on that. They interviewed Reed at her parents' house the afternoon of January 29th when she was asked how the damage to her taillight occurred. She told him she didn't know and that it happened last night. He told Reed that they would be taking possession of her phone and vehicle as evidence. Video shows the defendant's car being driven into the Sally Port Canton PD and the crime scene tape used to cut the vehicle off. Jurors also saw video defendant leaving McCarthy's with a tall glass in her hand and John O'Keefe leaving the waterfall with a shorter glass in his hand just after midnight. So he had a glass with him.
They stole it.
A forensic scientist examined a broken glass found in the vicinity of John O'Keefe's body and matched that glass to 6 and 9 pieces of glass fragments recovered from the scene. The trace evidence analyst also testified that pieces of the red plastic found in debris scraped from John O'Keefe's clothes were a match to the defendant's damaged tail light. On cross, defense attorney suggests lead investigator Michael Proctor planted and contaminated the items tested by the crime lab. They noted that Proctor found larger pieces of broken tail light weeks after O'Keefe's death, when another trooper could only find small pieces of broken tail light closer in time to the date of incident. So what they're saying is, the day of the accident, they took her car. 4 days later, the tail lights found at the scene. So they had her car in evidence those 4 days. So how hard would it be to take her tail light and put it in the snow?
Yeah, because she doesn't remember how that taillight would have.
No, but they didn't find it initially, and they're the ones that's had her car.
Yeah, and she doesn't remember that taillight getting knocked out, so maybe she didn't knock that taillight out. Maybe someone else did it. Because I'm looking at her car right now, okay? I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the taillight that's missing, okay? I feel like if she hit somebody with her car, there would be it wouldn't just be this taillight randomly gone. There would be scuffs on the paint. There'd be a small dent. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
And you have to remember, they had her car. No taillight pieces found on the ground in the initial 4 days later, when they've had her car this whole time, someone was like,
Whoa.
we can crack this off and put it in the snow. Okay, day 21. This one's a short day. Jurors heard a short clip of a statement that Karen Reed gave to police. The comments she made promoted officers to tell her to stop talking. They recovered John O'Keefe's baseball cap and shards of plastic from the area where his body was found as the snow melted. A key piece of video presented by prosecutors is exposed by the defense as misleading because it shows an inverted image of the defendant's car, leading jurors to believe they are viewing the passenger side of the car with the defendant's taillight, when in fact they are seeing the driver's side.
Wait, what? Because in this picture, it's the passenger side light that's out.
Yeah, they said a key piece of video presented by the prosecution is exposed by the defense as misleading because it shows an inverted image of the defendant's car, leading jurors to believe they are viewing the passenger side of the car with the defendant's taillight, when in fact they are seeing the driver's side.
Like the passenger
So they
side.
just took the whole taillight off.
Yeah, they just popped it off.
That's what they're saying, huh?
It's literally just popped off. That's what I'm saying. Like, this makes no sense. It's perfectly popped off.
Oh, you're gonna like this one. This is day 22.
Day 22.
Trooper Michael Proctor personal text exchange with friends and family were read to the jury during his direct examination, revealing at times his contempt for the defendant and her attorney and early suspicions of her guilt. Proctor was reviewing the contents of Karen Reed's cell phone on the night of August 17th when a fellow trooper messaged him a picture of defense attorney David Yanti, which is one of her defense attorneys. And this is what he wrote back. This is, I think I've said this before, this is the lead investigator in the case. He texts the group, which also included his supervisor and sergeant.
Okay.
This group text with a bunch of cops, okay?
Sweet.
I'm going through his retarded client's phone. He's talking about, because someone in the group sent a picture of her lawyer. Okay?
I mean, okay, he's calling her retarded.
Yeah. No nudes so far. I hate that man. Truly hate him. Proctor said he was examining Reed's phone looking for evidence in the form of location data, texts, and Google searches, but stopped when he came across communication that Reed had with her attorney. That was the update I gave the troopers in the office. It was a distasteful joke. I should have gave a proper update instead of that, he said.
That's a distasteful joke. That ain't distasteful.
In text that he exchanged with the group of friends on February 20th, Trooper Proctor responded to a friend's message. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job cunt. Yeah, she's a babe with a Fall River accent, though. No ass. This is the lead.
No ass. Yes.
So her attorney asked him to read what he wrote, and he said, she's a whack job, C-U-N-T. And her attorney said, no, I want you to say it. Like, don't spell it.
Say it in front of her.
Yeah, like, you wrote it.
Call her a cunt.
And so he did.
That's not distasteful. Like, this is unprofessional and, like, honestly, criminalistic. To call people retarded and a cunt.
He said his comments were unprofessional and regrettable.
Agreed. I just love when people like this feel like they can say whatever they want, but then when they're called out on it, he's like, I regret it. It was distasteful and unprofessional. You didn't think that until someone found out that you said it, and now you gotta own up to it. Like, you didn't think that until now.
So he also sent a text to his group of friends that the Alberts would not be in any trouble because he was a Boston police officer. In response to his friend's text, sure, the owner of the house will receive some shit. Proctor texts, nope, homeowner is a Boston cop too. Proctor interviewed Chris and Julie Albert as part of his investigation and acknowledged his relationship with the Alberts, characterizing them as acquaintances that he knew through his sister. He claimed his family with the Alberts had no impact on the investigation.
Sounds like it did.
As part of his investigation, Proctor said he returned to 34 Fairview Drive repeatedly because the rising temperatures had melted much of the snow and displayed for the jurors some of the other plastic pieces of taillight he recovered from the Albert's front yawn. He's the one that recovered.
That's strange.
Mm-hmm. Her attorney noted that Proctor was not reprimanded for the inappropriate text and that he abused his investigation authority by attempting to look for nude pictures of a client and said that it compromised the investigation.
It did. Absolutely did. This whole case should go out the window because of this investigator. He refused to look at the people that own the house just because he was a Boston cop. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Just because he's a Boston cop, like, does that mean he couldn't possibly do it because he's a Boston cop? Or because he's a Boston cop, we're supposed to help him get away with it?
Right.
Like, what? This whole thing should get thrown away because of this stupid-ass investigator cunt.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
So, we're on day 23. Michael Proctor spent the better part of the day, it says, being grilled over his text messages, mocking Karen Reed and his relationship with the Alberts and his alleged bias against the defendant. Her attorney accused him of having tunnel vision in his investigation, dismissing potential suspects who could have had motive, means, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe, and pointed to Brian Higgins, who the defense has painted as a romantic rival for Karen Reed's affections. You're aware he texts John O'Keefe to come to 34 Fairview. So, Brian did. Higgins, that night that Karen's not responding, he's the one that texted John O'Keefe to come to 34 Fairview. The one that was having romantic feelings for.
Damning.
So, yeah. And so he's questioning this Proctor, and said, do you agree he had the means to commit the crime? He's a big guy. He's former military and an ATF agent. Just because he's a big guy doesn't mean he has the means or motive, said Proctor. He was sexting his girlfriend.
And they shared a kiss.
Jackson suggested Proctor was downplaying how close he was to the Alberts, noting that Proctor texted his sister inquiries about Julia Albert's availability for babysitting his toddler. So, Proctor conceded he went out drinking with Kevin a few times as colleagues. They worked cold cases together, but they were still, he said, acquaintances. He makes more comments, by the way, about Karen Reed's body that are really gross. I don't even know what they mean.
He sounds just like a jealous douchebag.
And I'm just going to say this one because I don't know what it means.
Okay.
He sent a text in which Trooper commented on Reed's body, including a remark about her leaky balloon knot, which was a reference to her rectum. I've never heard of a leaky balloon knot. That must be a...
Is that like a pouchy stomach?
He said it was in reference to a rectum. The defense attorney revealed that Reed had to undergo a colonoscopy and had 10 surgeries in 18 months to contrast Reed's suffering against the troopers and sensitive remarks. So let's move to day 24. And this is, I believe, where it's at. Yep, day 24 is June 13th, which was just 3 days ago. So John O'Keefe's DNA was found on the passenger taillight of the defendant's car and on a hair from the passenger wheel well, which again, this has been in police custody for, you know what I mean?
When did we find this hair? It has been moved how much? How is this hair still there?
There was a mixture of DNA on the passenger taillight. Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant were excluded as contributors to the mixture.
And I mean, who's to say this is his girlfriend's car? What if they were putting groceries in the back and he touched the taillight with his hand? You know what I mean? That could have easily been done.
So they said, remember, she backed out at 5 a.m. is when she hit. And then she picked up her friends, and then they got to the scene. But this is the last day of court, what they said they found. Surveillance video capturing Karen Reed's movement between 5 and 5:30 on the morning of January 29th suggests she traveled to 34 Fairview before she went to Jennifer McCabe's house. They say there's footage of her going to the scene and then going to pick up her friends and acting like
she just now found him.
And they said, which may explain how she found John O'Keefe's body in the middle of the pitch dark blizzard. Because they said, it's dark and there's you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tooley, a Massachusetts State Police investigator, testified data from Karen Reed's cell phone also suggests she was going to 34 Fairview at 5:18 a.m. She should have arrived much sooner than 5:35. The time lapse between 5:18 and 5:35 is more consistent with the drive time from Meadows to 34 Fairview than to Country Lane, McCabe's residence. An investigator testified in the hours between 12:33 and 6:03 a.m. Karen called John O'Keefe 53 times.
Between what time?
12:33 when she supposedly dropped him off.
Uh-huh.
And then 6 a.m. she was still calling him even though records show her surveillance there.
So if she killed him, why would she be calling him so much?
Why is she calling him? No. And maybe she went there first looking
Yeah,
I mean,
thinking I'm going to
this
go
is where
knock on that door and
And
I'm
then
going
she
to
was like,
find
I
him.
want my friends with me.
Yeah, she may have went there like, I dropped him off here. Maybe he's having an affair with what's her fucking face. You know, like, I'm going to catch him, and then she doesn't have the courage, so she's like, I'm going to go pick up a friend. You know, she may not have seen him.
So it says on day 25, juror was dismissed from the Karen Reed trial, and I don't know why. And that is the last update we have on 6/14.
This whole thing's going to get dismissed because it's messy as shit.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not playing because I'm trying. It just has like a video with it. Why does it say testimony was delayed from our cameras were forced to be shut off after multiple jurors were called up to speak with the judge presiding over Karen Reed's murder trial? Oh, so that's why they like made everyone shut off to do, and they dismissed a juror, but I don't know if they released why.
What do they do when they dismiss a juror?
I
Do they
don't
get
know.
another juror in? Because you got to be, I think maybe you have backup jurors.
Yeah. How do you catch someone up?
Maybe there's a backup juror, like backup jurors that sit in the courtroom and listen.
It says one day ago, 2 jurors were dismissed in the Karen Reed trial. What does it mean for the case? I would like to know.
I want to know why they were dismissed.
It says it's not clear why the jurors were dismissed from the case. One was excused on Friday and another earlier in the week. There are good reasons personal to that juror. She seated 17 jurors to begin the case, 12 regular jurors, and 5 alternates.
Oh, okay.
The total number of jurors is 15 as of Friday. So regular and alternate jurors are present during it all. Typically, when a juror is removed from a case, the judge proceeds in 1 or 3 ways. They replace the juror with an alternate juror, continue the trial with a smaller jury, or declare a mistrial, which would require a new trial. In Reed's case, there is no indication that Canoe will declare a mistrial. Instead, the case appears to be proceeding with alternates taking the place of the jurors who have been dismissed. Judge can dismiss for 2 reasons, either for misconduct during the trial or a good cause like a death in the family or an illness. So,
Who
who
knows?
knows?
They probably were doing something they shouldn't have, like been on TikTok or something.
Yeah, but I thought at the beginning it said that they had good reason, so maybe something did happen. Which, I mean, this is like going on for a long time. I mean, you're taking up people's lives,
Yeah.
like we talked about.
Yeah.
But so that is the current update of the case.
I am so back and forth on this. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, I think she did it. And then sometimes I'm like,
That's
no,
what I
she didn't do it
told
at
you.
all.
I told you that's how I felt. At first, watching the TikToks, I thought, oh, she's not guilty. Like, they framed her. Now, I do think it's weird. This guy that was, like you said, he's older, she's attractive, she was leading him on. She kind of quits. He's the one that told him to come there.
Yeah, that is sus. And the fact that he completely...
And she had, like,
Destroyed
not
his
wrote
mouth.
him for 3 days, 4 days. Then they're all out together and they're, like, happy. And you know what I mean? All over each other that night. Like, did he get some feelings hurt?
Yeah.
I mean, he's drinking and he's like, she's not writing me back. She said she wasn't happy with this guy. What kind of, she's kissing me. What kind of games is she playing with my head?
Yeah.
I'm gonna invite him here. Were they in on it together?
I'm really not convinced Karen's in on it.
54 phone calls, or 53, within 6 hours. So how many is that per hour?
But that doesn't seem like someone that knows she killed him. This is 63 phone calls to her boyfriend that's dead, right?
Yeah.
So she just thinks he is fucking around with someone else probably. And she's fucking calling. I swear to fucking... You know?
I mean, she's going... They said, I mean, she hasn't slept. They're saying she's acting erratic. She's being crazy. They take her in for a mental eval. Cops do. They take her vehicle. They don't find the broken pieces till 4 days later after they used a leaf blower and red Solo cups to contaminate the crime scene.
Whitney, this doesn't make any sense.
So what happened? I just want to know now. They sold their house. They've cut up SIM cards. They got rid of the dog. And none of it's coincidence. They had 1 million butt dials.
Yeah, the butt dials are weird.
But everyone was like sleeping during that time that their phones were.
But the thing is these people are police. Okay? So they know how shit goes down. They know if there's no evidence, they might look suspicious, all this stuff. But you
Yeah.
have to be able to prove that they did it. So if they get rid of the evidence, I know I look suspicious for getting rid of it, but you can't get evidence against
Let's
me.
remember her little boy toy went back to the police station around like 1:30, 1:40. Scanned his, swiped his card.
That is so weird. Why would he go back? Like what are you thinking he would have went back for?
Maybe alibi?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know why he went there. Maybe to see if, I don't know. I do not know why he would have went back there, but I don't know if she did it or not. Why does that Michael Proctor hate her so much, though? He has got some major anger issues towards her. Talking about her leaky balloon, but
I don't know.
like, did he get turned down by her, though?
That's what I'm wondering.
She's pretty, like,
He's got a personal vendetta against her for some reason.
I mean, he can't stand her. He called her a cunt. Like, this is a woman but like, what did she do? Because I don't feel like you randomly just throw that word out to someone you don't really know.
Police are supposed to be unbiased.
Well, I think he's under investigation now.
Good.
He remains on full active duty. The lead guy who's supposed to be like helping people.
He looks like a penis. Okay? And he acts like one too.
It says one of the lead investigators in the Karen Reed murder case is currently under internal investigation by the Massachusetts State Police. The investigation is related to a potential violation of department policy.
Now-
I would hope that that's a violation.
I really hope so too. I think now that his testimony is out and it's getting across, over TikTok, over the places, he's gonna get suspended for sure because
He said hopefully she kills herself. But I mean, I just want to know what she did to him. I feel like that's personal.
that is personal.
That's not like
Why
a random
attack?
girl.
Why attack someone like that? It has to be personal.
I called her the C word, but spelled it out.
And saying he hopes she kills herself. Like,
No, there's something.
mhm.
Maybe she led him on too. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe she was a cop popper. I don't know, but it don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No, she can do what she wants. But maybe that had him all pissed off.
Maybe it did. Well,
So your final thoughts?
final thoughts, I don't know. I'm at a loss. The only thing I can say with confidence is that she's going to be found not guilty. That's the only thing I can say with confidence.
Yeah, I agree.
I do
There's-
not think there's any way 12 people can get together and say that she did this.
Let's say without a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Because they've definitely proved doubts.
There's definitely doubt in this.
So even if she did it, I mean, this was not handled properly.
No. If she did it, she's going to get away with it.
I wonder what she's going to say about coming back. Or if they're ever going to, I mean, if she doesn't go on the stand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
I'm
don't know.
sure her attorney wants that cleared up, though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he'll do it.
I don't either. It'll be interesting to see. So this is as of, what, 6 p.m.?
Mm-hmm.
Was probably the last time you really
Yeah.
looked into it. As of 6 p.m. on June 15th. I'll be curious to know if Karen's going to testify on her own behalf. I don't feel like it's ever a good idea for someone to testify on their own
Right.
behalf. But I just don't think it could hurt her at this point because they are
Right.
doing so bad to make her look bad. I don't
Yeah.
think she looks bad. They're making themselves look bad.
No, it is wild.
I would like for her to actually get on the stand and be like, no, I didn't say that stuff. Y'all are
Right.
a bunch of liars.
I want to show you, Emily. This is the house
Oh my gosh. And where was he found?
over here.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very.
Yeah, no.
All right, you guys.
Yeah, that's it. We'll call that one.
And we will pick back up on that one.
Yeah, because in a few weeks from now, the trial should be over
Yeah.
and we should have an answer.
Yeah.
I'm excited to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I've seen this all over TikTok, but I hadn't known anything about it before today, so
Yeah.
I'm excited. Well, thank you all for listening, and yeah, if you hear any good stuff for the Karen Reed case, just let us know. I'm sure we're
Yeah.
going to be following it pretty closely,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're following along, who knows? By the time this releases,
We might have
we may have a conviction, but I think they still have a little while in the trial left. They're only 4 weeks in, and they've said
6 to 8 weeks. We might have a lot more.
Yeah.
We might come back with a whole opposite view.
I know. There's still a lot that could be said. Okay. Well, we'll catch you all in the next one, and thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.